Yeah, it's just loading. So I can double click to enter full screen mode. Yeah.
Rohan, in case if you need support, should I share it for you?
Yeah, I think it's not popping up for some reason. Yeah. Well, should we share from our side? Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I'll just share it if needed. Yeah, sure, Rohan, we'll wait. No worries.
So my system's getting a very weird thing. When I present my screen, my mic gets disabled. Can someone then present?
I'll present it, Rohan. Just allow me a second, please. I'll just present my screen.
Perfect.
Is my screen visible, Rohan?
Yeah, you can just.
I'll just put it on slide. So you can just keep telling me when you want me to change the slide.
Perfect.
I'll
Perfect.
keep doing that. Yeah.
I will. So great, guys. This is very weird. I've never come across this issue. Tech company, I guess. Driving online sales with YouTube. So what I'll be covering in the next half an hour is like, I think this topic people have discussed it, and I think in the earlier sessions also this was discussed a lot, that video is the next big thing with COVID coming in, and Nielsen reports telling us that video is now a habit. I think you guys heard that in Tanveer's session, and then just the last session with Ruchi from I think Meta. Again, video can drive performance and branding both, right? So I'll talk more about that with a few case studies, with a few examples, with a few numbers, and probably then I'll also leave everyone in the room with like a framework as to how to like incorporate video in the full funnel of your marketing campaigns, which you can use across multiple categories. You can move to the next slide. So innovation and growth for the D2C brand really starts with, if you just like go on page, it starts with like identifying search behavior. It starts with identifying your audience and viewership. And it starts with understanding what is the part to purchase for your products, right? A D2C brand is slightly different from an online standpoint when, let's say, you look at a traditional brand. A traditional brand would mostly have an offline presence, right? Their products would mostly be on the shelves. They would sometimes have a store, right? So for them, it's easy to get eyeballs of the end user who they want to convert, right? But let's say for a new D2C brand, they have to understand what is it that their core TG it's doing online, right? So that's where the search behavior comes in, understanding that, right? Understanding what is it that they're doing at what stage of the funnel. What are they watching on YouTube? What is their TG and demographics? And then understanding how much of touch points are required, or how many touch points do they go before executing the purchase in the category that, let's say, D2C brand functions in, right? So we'll try to figure out these three things. But just moving on, a little bit about YouTube and what it has grown to now. YouTube is now 450 million plus behemoth. We continue to be the number 1.5x the reach of the largest GEC in the top 6 metros, 1.3 times the reach of the largest GEC in HSM, and number 2 network in all the regional states. So YouTube's growing, and thanks to COVID and thanks to the new internet users, the Bharat that's coming online, I think it's just a matter of few months, or maybe like a few more, some of I can like quote it, but probably we should see the 500 million number soon, if not sooner than later. Then let's just talk a little bit about the consumer, how the consumer has evolved. uh, Consumers are interested in buying locally and with smaller businesses more and more. And that's what we're seeing. I mean, if you heard from Tanveer in his session, right, there was a 500% increment in interest for D2C brands, and that's what it is in the year-end search report of Google, right? That suddenly a lot of first-time shoppers have come online, a lot of users who are searching for D2C brands have come online, and this has been catapulted further with COVID coming in. A lot of people are expecting packages at home, so the D2C thing has also exploded, and that is where we see that a lot of consumer interest is changing. So if you see over here that 62% of the active population expressed favorability towards buying goods, right? That that are produced in the country. So there is a thought about made in love with India, right? A lot of brands, a lot of websites are showing that this is made in India, this is made in this part of India. Let's say this is something that's made in Gujarat or South India or East India, right? So all that is really becoming a trend now. People are proud to talk about that they make products in India, and make in India is something that's even getting a lot of push from the government itself. And SMB is not just, let's say, your mamas and moms cos of the world. We are also looking at SMBs that are really, really small, but because of the technology we have and the ad platforms we have today, even they are able to get a voice from an online standpoint, right? It's easy to go online now. It is easy to put your shop online. It is easy to market yourself online, and that's what makes it so much more powerful in a digital era for you to have a share of the pie online. And if you like go slightly ahead, Page, what we there was a Nielsen survey about what would be the impact in video behavior, right, with COVID coming in, and what we saw was that because people are now homebound, there would be a growth of about 60% in video viewers, right, globally. And I think that number, as per the recent report, went up to 85% as per that Nielsen report. So it's just crazy how much growth video has gotten globally from a consumption standpoint. And the most interesting bit about this is that in India, like especially, if you look at the graph in the next slide, if you can just move, perfect. Consumers are turning to YouTube with their questions and trying to figure out solutions to their questions in more of a video format, right? The trend in how-to queries has increased significantly during COVID. And as consumers are getting used to watching a lot of how-to videos on YouTube, we're seeing a huge growth. And this is just an example of the beauty category. And this is what we call as jugaad, right? But this is happening across categories, right? How to make XXrecipe recipe at home, how to do XS stuff from a beauty category at home, how to, let's say, create a lot of DIY videos are seeing huge growth at home. So users have come online, but in a different sense, right? They are still sitting in the upper funnel, and we'll talk about what is the growth difference between the upper funnel and lower funnel in a later slide. But the idea over here is that with COVID and with a lot of changes in the environment around us, political, behavioral change, and then the technological change, a lot of users have access to tech. A lot of users are now more educated about how the online platforms work. And YouTube search and the kind of videos and the kind of search behavior that we see on YouTube has become the next big thing. And that is where I think the growth for a lot of D2C brands will come in from let's say in the next 2 to 3 years, as more and more new internet users from tier 3, tier 4 India come online. So just moving ahead, Paige. So like I mentioned, we already know that there's no longer a clear path. I think you've heard this since 2 p.m., right? That the path to purchase is non-linear, right? Instead, people are constantly jumping from exploration to evaluation stage before deciding on the product they want to buy, right? As a result, YouTube has evolved as a single entertainment destination to a prominent knowledge hub, because becoming aware of new products, A, consideration of new products, and B and C, taking action and purchasing of new products. All that is happening on YouTube, right? Now, if you see the numbers in front of you, 50% of shoppers say online video has helped them decide which specific brand to or product to buy. 70% are talking about that. YouTube viewers say that YouTube makes them more aware of new brands, right? So this is something that is there across categories, not just one or two categories. This is an aggregated research study that we've done with Ipsos and other research partners, right? And then 70% of YouTubers say that they bought a brand as a result of seeing it on YouTube. Maybe influencers, maybe the brand video, maybe a brand ad, but YouTube is driving purchase, and that is something that we're seeing more and more across categories. You can just move ahead. So, great, thanks. So what we figured out, and what is that thing that we finally realized, that there's clearly there's no more a linear path to purchase across categories. Maybe one or two categories, but if you look at an aggregate picture of, let's say, the purchase behavior of a consumer, you will not see a linear category anymore. So you must must have a marketing media plan where you're touching the customer at multiple parts of funnel, not just the lower funnel or not just the mid funnel. You need to expand and move up the funnel, right? People will constantly jump between exploration and evaluation. Let's say you're buying a car, you almost figure out a car, and then something else launches, or someone tells you, "Hey, what about this one? Or what about an EV car?" You go back to the exploration phase. You start figuring out EV versus diesel cars, right? Then you come back over here, and then it's a whole new funnel altogether that, let's say, an IC engine car has to compete in now, because there's just so much information available out there, and YouTube sits at the center of it, right? So now I'll take an example of a beauty and fitness category. If you closely look over here, 20 times is the amount of upper funnel searches compared to lower funnel searches. The growth is actually, if you see the blue line talks about the how-to searches. The green line talks about the price searches, or what, like, price of a certain product in a beauty category. And this is in the beauty category, and beauty and the fitness category from a Google Trends standpoint. And if you see the red line is what actually is the lower funnel, which is just, if you look at an index kind of a scale, it's just 3 compared to the 65x, which is the blue line and the green line that they are operating at, right? So it's actually up to the brands, I would say, the D2C brands, that how much of share that you really are like hungry for. Are you okay to just operate in that red line, that the 3 index that will get you some performance, that will get you some business, but once you start saturating it, you will have to start looking at the middle line, which is the consideration bit, where people are trying to understand that how much of where can we buy products online, or what is, let's say, a good alternative for this product, or what is the difference between certain products. Or if you're really hunger for the big upper funnel expansion, where the majority of the audiences are sitting in, where we see that a lot of brands don't venture in, but the brands that have ventured there, I think, and Tanveer and the rest of the team did take a few names in the last few sessions. They've seen growth. They've seen crazy amount of growth. And at Google also, we've seen growth across brands when brands move to upper and mid funnel. There's a science behind it as to how to go upper funnel without bleeding, how to move upper funnel with the right metrics to measure. But once we do it, once brands are able to inculcate the whole upper funnel strategy, that is when I think the magic happens. So we'll talk about that in the upcoming slides. So, and with all that we've seen, right, with the year-end search report, with whatever the folks have spoken in the last few sessions, with whatever we've seen from 2021, and with the kind of VC funding and the everything coming in from the Shark Tanks of the world, from a lot of focus on a lot of startups that are coming up, and a lot of categories are opening, right? We feel that 2022 is the right time to build a YouTube strategy to build e-com sales. And let's discuss about how we can do it together. So this is the motto that we go ahead with for the next upcoming slides. We will try to connect with our audiences at every stage of their purchase journey, not just action, not just mid-funnel, but across the funnel. And to do so, right, we'll have to look at the 3 bits. One is awareness, the other is consideration, the other is action, right? The 3 questions that we'll try to answer is that how to drive direct e-commerce sales with YouTube, how to drive consideration and inspire action to enhance e-com sales, and then how to drive awareness about your brand, which leads to sale at a later stage, right? So brand equity becomes an important role in driving sale, because we just saw example of the beauty and fitness category, right? Brands operating in the upper funnel are actually creating their brand with an audiences that's 20 times the audiences that are sitting in the lower funnel. So it just becomes so much more important and imperative for us to create a brand equity, which will later drive to sales. But let's see how we can solve for that. Moving to awareness. Now, let's see how we can drive awareness and brand equity with YouTube, right? Now, I know this slide is a bit like there's a lot going on in the slide, but let me help you guys out with understanding it. The audiences that we need to reach out from an awareness standpoint, it's basically your upper funnel affinity audiences which have a passion about doing something, right? Let's say you're a you're the D2C brand which operates in luxury beauty cosmetics for males and females both. Look at luxury audiences, right? Start start reaching out to them with a creative that's relevant for them, that speaks to them in their language, right? And then start seeing that how does this audience behave in terms of metrics like unique reach, frequency, view through rates, ad lift, brand lift, awareness lifts, right? And then you start seeing that what is the qualification of this audiences over the period of 15, 30, 45, 60 days, right? If let's say today by spending an X amount, you reached out to, let's say, out of 10 million of your core audiences, which is sitting in the upper funnel, you reached out to, let's say, 3 million of those. What has been the funnel like after, let's say, 20 days? Out of that 3 million, what was the frequency, let's say, on the 3 million? And then how many net new users did you witness coming to your website? What did that lead to from, let's say, a checkout standpoint? What did that lead to, let's say from an add to cart standpoint? And all that is something that we can track on YouTube. And this is still on the number standpoint. But the bigger thing that we should start focusing on when we start looking at awareness also is the fact that how much are we growing our brand metrics? Now, Paige, if you can just move to the next slide. Because what we've seen, and this is a study that we've done with Nielsen MMM, that when we are focusing on brand as a D2C client, every $1 that you're putting in your brand ads will also lead to a $0.84 increment, will also yield you guys a $0.84, let's say, of revenue or profit later on. So that is the impact of brand today. So a lot of brands come to Google, come to Social Beat asking that, hey, we'll add, let's say we'll spend 10 lakhs today and let's see what happens after that, right? It's not that that 10 lakhs will result in sales today or tomorrow, but you have to look at a long-term kind of a window over here. You have to see what is the longing effect of investing in brand and the whole idea about creating a brand equity on YouTube and on digital channels. Because as per our internal studies, it leads to 0.84% more, let's say, after the period of, let's say, a month or 2 or 3, but that depends on the category. But this is something that we've seen more and more in our internal studies. The other impact that we've seen YouTube have is that the impact on direct sales, right? Let's say if you're a brand that's doing YouTube regularly, let's say for the last 6 months or 12 months, and you compare your results to TV, and this is something that, again, we did a study across multiple CPG brands. We saw 2x performance increase in brand lift metrics, 2x increase in almost sales metrics, which led to a 68 to about 70% increase in your ROI, which was almost double of that which they got from linear TV programming. So that's almost a 2x increase, that impact that you're driving, just because you were disciplined about investing in YouTube. And this is something that's been proven again and again. Awareness, guys, helps a lot in building brand equity to drive sales later. And that's one point. I think if there's one thing you will take out from this whole presentation, start investing in awareness today. We don't know if there'll be another COVID coming in. We don't know if there'll be something else coming in later on. If your brand is strong, if you have a presence in the market, you can be rest assured that there'll always be a core audiences or a core market that will always be pro towards your brand, and that becomes the strong audiences that you can go after later when things settle, right? By focusing only on performance marketing or lower funnel, you're missing out on just so much, and you're just leaving yourself vulnerable in the market. That's one thing that I wanted to talk about on the awareness bit. Now, if you move to the consideration phase, which I think a lot of advertisers are doing really, really strongly over here. Tej, if you can just move to the next slide. Tej?
Probably having some issues.
You want me to share that? Okay, while he moves the slide, I'll just quickly talk about what consideration is, right? The audience is that, and the consideration phase that we need to start reaching out to are basically people who are in the market let's say, again, you're a D2C brand working in, let's say, something for your home. Figure out people who are right now in market for buying products for their home. Figure out people who are in market for, let's say, renovating their home or buying a new home, or just buying new furniture for their homes, right? That is the kind of market you look at from a consideration standpoint. The formats that you will be using here will be your consideration kind of formats, which is your in streams of the world, which is your um, uh, which are your your video action campaigns of the world, which is your lead formats of the world, right? Try to move the idea over here in the consideration set is to move people into consideration set for your brand, right? Not just like get them to consider the category, but also to consider your brand within the category, right? So if your creative over here in this set of the funnel needs to talk about the fact that looking to buy XXY, why don't you consider this brand, right? It needs to be contextual as to what the user's journey is, and that's where this phase becomes really really strong and drives a lot of assisted conversions and a lot of view through conversions over here. We've done it with the social media team for a lot of brands across boat and multiple other brands, and we've seen this working like clockwork. You implement this, see the impact on view through conversion, see the impact on assisted conversion, leverage Google's cross channel report, leverage Google cross path report, understand for how many conversions YouTube was in the part two purchase, because these are the users who are right on the fence. They'll either buy from you or not buy from you, but they will buy for the category. So it becomes that much more imperative for us to go after these audiences. And you can just move to the next slide, Sunil. And then this is something that we all have been doing. We all been doing really well, but action campaigns. Pick up your first party audiences and your marketing audiences. Go after them with a video action campaign. But don't just stop over there. Always and always, Sunil, if you can move to the next slide, couple it with discovery campaigns. Now, the reason I say that is because when we've always coupled a video action campaign or discovery campaign, right? And then we've seen metrics around brand and performance. We've seen there's almost about 2 to 3 times of lift across metrics like favorability, consideration, and purchase intent, which is huge for brands that have been investing in brand or have been just investing in performance. These numbers are huge from an absolute standpoint. And what it just leads to is that it makes your YouTube strategy, it makes the overall performance marketing strategy that much more efficient, right? The one on the left is performance marketing. The one on the right is your video campaign. Both of them together, they drive efficiencies which are unheard of, right? So this is something that a lot of advertisers should start doing from, I think, today onwards. And one thing also that we've seen very recently is that uh, we did a research internally, I think, and that what it said was 80% of the advertisers who've complemented display discovery with their YouTube campaigns, right? They saw CPA coming from YouTube campaigns, which was lower or similar to the original CPA from search, which is something that is groundbreaking, which is something that breaks the myth that YouTube can't drive conversions. YouTube and video can drive performance. It's just that there's a way to use it. And understanding that this has to be the creatives and the campaign timing needs to be impeccable. Without let's say a great creative strategy or a without let's say a timing, by missing the bus, let's say on the user purchase journey, we might miss out on a lot of these efficiency that I've spoken about. But I think if we plan ahead of time, and if you move to the next slide, Sunil, if we plan ahead of time, right? If we plan to, let's say, grab the attention of the consumer across the funnel, we can, I think, really, really drive a lot of more performance, a lot of more conversion than we are driving as of now from, let's say, from a sole lower funnel or a mid funnel approach standpoint. Now, this is a funnel, and if you're going full funnel, right, you can use this framework along to understand how you can incorporate video along with your search and shopping campaign. At the bottom in the blue, you'll find your always on activity, right? Which should take about 40 to 45% of your budget. This will include your search and shopping campaigns. And Along with that, you're putting a video action campaigns over here. This remains always on. Don't touch it. Your video action campaigns with the marketing audience and first party audiences will keep on growing and growing. And this is something that will continue to drive CPAs and conversion at the same or even lower CPA, let's say, compared to a search and shopping campaign. At the top in the yellow is awareness blast, which you keep on doing, let's say, on key dates. Let's say you do one in Jan, one in March, one in April, one in, let's say, July, one in around festive, right? And this should take about 15 to 20% of your total marketing budget. If you don't have budget for awareness, you should take out budget for awareness. But this is something that you should be doing. And every awareness blast should be at least for 4 weeks. And the frequency that we should be looking at an awareness blast should be about 5 to 6, because that's when we've seen a lot of brand moving really, really fast over there. And in the middle, it's really comes to the point that that what do we do in the middle? How do we support the bottom and the top with a campaign that really, really drives saliences and really drives the audiences and nurtures them, where it comes in the TrueView in-stream or the video action campaign, but let's say to the in-market audiences, the audiences which are right on the fence. And this is the kind of campaign where you should spend, I think, the maximum of your budget. Again, this campaign could be 4 to 8 weeks long, but should be kind of like come out more sooner, right? It can be always on if you have the budget for it, but then try to make sure that you do more often of the mid funnel campaigns, and you have to optimize it for live conversions, right? Start seeing when you launch a mid funnel campaign. Let's say you started a campaign in market for, let's say, people who are trying to buy a home, or people who are, let's say, in market for renovating their homes. How many people did add to cart? How many people, let's say, went to the checkout page, right? And the one thing that, if let's say you're being super risky and you like, let's just do it, let's just open all the guns and let's just go out in the market, omit all your converters and visitors from the yellow and the orange part. Make sure that your mid funnel and upper funnel campaign only go after net new users. Don't let them go after the bottom funnel, right? Then you see that how many users are actually coming to the net new, how many net new add to carts happen because of a YouTube campaigns, how many net new checkouts have happened because of a YouTube campaigns, right? What is the impact that YouTube drove, let's say, from a net new user on product pages standpoint? Then you actually start understanding the funnel, right? You reach out to 3 million people in the yellow front, right? Let's say you've reached out to 1 million people on the orange line. Then you start seeing that after reaching out to 3 million people, let's say, how many X 100,000 users came and did add to cart, right? Out of that, how many then ended up doing checkout? And then you do this across multiple type of audiences which is available in YouTube, and then you'll figure out what is the audience that behaves the better from a sales funnel standpoint. And this funnel is something I think Sunil can also talk to you guys about, how we've made and orchestrated this funnel across multiple D2C brands. But this funnel, once you know, like, okay, these are the 10 type of audiences that work really, really well for me from a sales funnel standpoint. These are the audiences that work really well for me from a brand funnel standpoint. Once you know this data, right? Once you have this data, it becomes as easy and plug and play when, let's say, you want to do your big blast or you want to scale up your performance campaign, because you've already figured out where have you made an awareness, who are your engagers, and who will convert with you. And then you just like go out with a framework and you start investing more and getting them back into the funnel piece. I hope, guys, this was useful. I'll stop over here and like get if there's any question or answers for me or for the whole YouTube performance or the whole YouTube channel. Please shoot now. I'm more than happy to answer. Dave, if you have any, more than happy to take.
Yes, Ron. No, thank you. That was super insightful and like very detailed slides. I think a lot of requests for those slides as well. One question, Ron, was on using programmatic like DV360 to run some of these awareness campaigns and the consideration campaigns which you mentioned, right? How have you seen that pan out? And I know we have done some of those together, but love to hear that.
See, it works brilliantly if a client is looking at because see, DV360 GMP will help you in optimizing for frequency, right? And the more you're able to control frequency, the more you're able to drive a higher reach, right? If you can control your frequency across multiple platforms, that results in cost saving, which results in higher reach. So it's just not that you're saving money, it's also that you're increasing your overall reach. And DV60 also allows you to, let's say, go after inventory and the creators which are not otherwise available via Google AdWords, right? So that's another added benefit of DV60. I've personally seen a lot of brands going the DV route, and that has certainly opened a lot of incremental reach. Let's say from, let's say, a net new add to cart or a net new product visit standpoint, but it also is a factor of what was the overall media mix of that client, right? How much were they only investing in YouTube, or are they also looking at multiple other platforms? And I think that is also a conversation we can have with a lot of brands once they're looking at DV60.
Thanks, Rohan. I think there's a question actually from one who attending they had. I think one of them wanted to understand that how can we actually measure the brand equity impact in a long-term way? Like, do you think there is a particular suggested time frame we should look at, like some specific number of days, months, or maybe take a time frame of a year?
Let me take this answer. Let me answer that in a very different manner. And thanks for the question, whoever asked that. With YouTube, right? When you're measuring brand lift, you get a metric which is your controlled baseline positivity rate, which is, let's say, if people in a certain audiences didn't see your ad, what percentage of those people would have selected your brand? And that's a percentage, let's say, you can get today for your brand. If you, let's say, invest with YouTube, and if let's say start doing an advertising on YouTube, let's say it comes down to be 20%. What 20% says is that, let's say if in the core audience set, which is, let's say, 10 million or 1 million or 100 million, 20% of the audiences over there would select your brand even if they didn't see any ads. That talks about how strong your brand is with your audiences. And then by running YouTube, we do a test on the same audiences that, hey, okay, after showing all of these audiences a video, how much did that percentage, how much was the jump in that percentage of brand, right? What was the exposed control rate? Did it go up to 24%? Did it go up to 26%? Did it go up to 30%, right? And that is essentially what we call as brand lift. Now, Tej, to your question that, is there any number of months or weeks to it? There's no number of months or weeks to it, but you have to look at the fact that am I controlling 30 to 40% of brand, right, in a category or not? Are 30 to 40% of people, let's say, in a category selecting my brand with or without me running ads or not? And because that is where we've seen a lot of leaders in the categories we operate at. You pick up the leaders in online meat delivery, you pick up the leaders in online beauty or in the online electronic space. All the leaders, their brand lifts and the brand salience is about a good number would be around 30 to 40%, but that's the number that you can gun for. But it's essentially understanding where do you stand today from a brand lift metric standpoint, from a control positivity rate standpoint, and what is it that you have to do in order to, let's say, reach out to or move to, let's say, the 30% standpoint.
Understood. No, I think that's great, and I think does give us some clarity in a way to understand this brand lift. I think I had one question also, which I thought would be interesting for all of us to also understand. Like you spoke very for the full funnel approach that we should follow on YouTube, like have a proper strategy for our awareness, consideration, and as well as conversions. And you spoke about how we customize communications on each and every funnel that we're working for. But now, Rohan, I think we just wanted to understand how you mentioned about COVID and the switch in people right now on digital, where they have started spending a lot of time on YouTube and consuming more of video formats. Have you also seen any kind of a shift in terms of the time frame or retention that was there on each of these funnels? Like maybe for an top funnel earlier, it would be maybe a 10-second could work. But maybe now, since people are consuming this content, they are inclined or they're having that attention span to maybe be there for a good 20-25 seconds. So is there a shift that you've seen?
I'll answer that question with the report from the Nielsen survey. Video viewers and video watching has become a habit along with seeing and working, right? Now, if this is a habit, people are bound to be on the platform. So we have brands which have taken the risk and gone with, let's say, 30 second or 60 second also in the upper funnel. And there have been cases where we've seen VTRs of about 30 to 40% coming in. So it's not that a good 30, 60 second won't work. again, it comes back to the point that how good is the creative? Is the creative hitting home with that audience? That, let's say you're reaching out to the luxury audiences, but your creative talks about how you're running a sale of, let's say, X percentage discount, and does not talk about the whole luxury aspect of your brand. It might not work, right? There are chances it might not work. But again, if you invest that much money into a creative, if you invest that much money into bringing out the picture, the luxury picture out of a brand, let's say you again then go after the luxury audiences, there are chances it might work. And how we spoke about the long-term effect on sales, it might just happen, right? And that is something that we'll always gun for. Yeah. So to your point, 15, 10 seconders, not really. I would say now be bold, go after 30 seconders at least. Let's try look at those VTR metrics. They are bound to increase. With a lot of audiences coming online, I think it's safe to say that the more we go after, the more risk we take, the more returns we'll get from the platform. And with the knowledge that we team you guys have, and with our YouTube in-house knowledge, I think we can figure out for a lot of brands that are present in the room that what is the core audiences where they can and will, let's just spend the plethora of their budget so that they continue to see growth. Let's say be it a 30-second or a 60-second. The idea is to optimize for views and then engagement on the websites.
Understood. No, I think that was great. I think, Rohan, because I think that's something we all have been seeing as that shift, because I think of COVID, we have been trying to understand how things work. But I really feel that I think this was a good insight that you shared with us in an overall approach of how to follow a funnel, how to use that top funnel approach as well. I think that was really insightful from your end. I think, are there any other questions that the audience would like to ask? Anything that you would like?
I think there's some questions on the chat. There's one about, can you please break down how we can remarket properly? See, remarketing by John, I think. So see, remarketing basically, uh, again, it's to understand when are you remarketing? Are you remarketing to a person who was in upper funnel, then come to mid funnel, then come to lower funnel? Then the remarketing is a bit different to that kind of a user, right? Remarketing to a video viewer will be different from remarketing to someone who's already converted. So even your remarketing strategy needs to have multiple creatives. Even your remarketing strategy needs to be across, let's say, be equipped with a communication strategy that talks to people in different funnel of remarketing. Your remarketing and also reach out to someone who just visited your website and then moved away, right? Why did they move away? Try to understand that and maybe come out with a comms on Discovery or YouTube to get them to get back on your website. Some people who move from add to cart or checkout, they were right on the fence and then they moved, right? Why did they move? Get them back. A totally different communication channel is what is required over there. So remarketing also, I think, needs to be, it's a different science altogether. It needs to be understood as to what are the user that we are remarketing to. It's not 2014 or 15 where remarketing was just starting a display campaign and letting it run. Things have changed. Users have evolved. They are across the funnel. So probably, and that's why our marketing campaigns should be also across the funnel, I guess. There are some more questions over here, but do we have time for more questions?
I think maybe one last one, Rohan, we can take if you can maybe give us a minute here.
Let me see. Which one? I mean, there are a few questions over here. I've
I think a lot of people
one from John.
I've
I've
wanted
taken
to
one from
understand
Varun.
how to go for like a budget mix. Like, how do we have like a proper max out budget for YouTube ads? Like, what could be like a sales of percentage that we can expect from there? I think maybe that's one last question that we can take for today's session.
Okay. So, see, budget mix, as long as budget percentage distribution is concerned, that I've written over there. We also look at internally a 15% budget spent on your awareness stage, 45 on lower funnel and 40 on mid funnel. But let's say how much is too much on YouTube or how much is too less on YouTube? To understand that, we need to figure out that are we reaching out to the core audiences or not? And if we are reaching out to our core audiences, if they are coming on to our website And if we are still able to spend the budget that we've allocated to our core audiences, then why are we stopping it over there, right? Why don't we increase the budget to a level that we saturate that audiences? Have we reached out to 30 to 40% of the audiences that are in our core set out there in the YouTube universe? If you've not reached out, I would say you're not spending enough, if because your core audiences will always be small but highly engaged with your brand, right? And I think that is where, as a brand, you need to start tapping out audiences. Create a create like a funnel of core audiences, core plus one, core plus two. Your core audience is where you go after 30% of the universe that's outside at a frequency of 6+. Once you attain that, figure out the next core plus one audiences, where let's say you can reach out to 20% of the overall universe out there, or 15% of the universe out there, with let's say a frequency of 4 or 3. But don't look at spending all your budget over there, because this is where you can also spend a lot and not drive a lot of performance. It's actually a core audience, like I said, where you should not even think about budget. You should start thinking about, have I reached out to 30 to 40% of my core audiences? And if not, how can I reach out? What is the time frame I need to reach out to 30 to 40% of that core audiences at a 5 or a 6+ frequency? Because that is when we've seen internally is that the brand metrics start moving, and a lot of performance metrics also start moving over there. The budget will depend on, I mean, if you reach out to 10% or 5% of your core audiences, then you might as well not do it, because that 2 or 5% incremental might not drive a lot of sales, and it'll just come back to you as a brand manager and as a brand marketer that maybe this is something I should not have done, or maybe you would have this myth in your mind or the doubt in your mind that maybe YouTube didn't work, right? But it's not that. It's just that there's so much noise out there. There's so many brands competing for the same user. A good 20 to 30% reach with a 5 or 6+ frequency is something that really makes it work for brands out there, and a lot of D2C brands now.
Understood. I think that was one of the secret sauces we've got from Rohan today from this session, in terms of understanding how to measure the right impact also from YouTube. But I think, Rohan, we really wanted to thank you, the whole Social Beat team really wanted to thank you for this session, and always your constant support that we keep getting from you on a day-to-day basis. And really thank you for taking out the time for this session today.
Not a problem.
And we look forward to having you again for our next sessions as well.
Sure. It's always a pleasure.
I think interesting insight on sleep, work, and videos now, Rohan. So thanks for that.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Rohan.
Pranav, over to you for the last.
Yes. Thanks, Sunil. Great. That was a very interesting conversation. I think over the day we've spoken about Google, we've spoken about growth, hyperscaling brands, and YouTube and Facebook overall. And we finally moved to the next important pillar that we also at D2Scale see impacting D2C brands, which is the creator ecosystem and influencer marketing, for which we have Arushi here today with us, who is the business head at influencer.in. Really glad to have you here, Arushi.
Sure. Thanks, Pranav. Thanks for the introduction. Thanks for having me here. I'm just going to quickly share my screen, and then maybe I'll just start.
Yes. Yep. I think while Arushi pulls up a screen, a quick introduction to everybody here of Arushi. Arushi has been leading influencer.in for the last 4 years, and we've been doing some great work in terms of building the product out for influencer.in and sort of bringing the creator sort of ecosystem to brands at large. Overall, Arushi comes with a lot of experience in the corporate world, and she's also an London Business School graduate. So over to you, Arushi, to take us through what we have on influencer.in.
Thanks again. Good evening, everyone. I'm really excited to be here and going to be showing you some of the interesting influencer marketing case studies that we have in the D2C space. Just to give a brief about us, we are one of India's fastest growing product and platform, working with almost 70,000 creators and some of the biggest brands, from Flipkart to Tata Click, Snapdeal, Dabur. We are a 50-member team, which helps bring some of these campaigns to life. And I'll quickly dive into some of these case studies. I think the first case study that I have here is for a leading D2C brand, Wonder Chef. We did something very interesting to help them stand in the market, right? And we designed a campaign to talk about gender diversity, where we plugged in a different array of products, be it their pans or, a different array that they have. and quickly, and showcase as to how, even the men can help in the kitchen. And I'll quickly show this video for everyone in the room to get better context, and then, dive a little further in that. One second.
The audio is not clear, Arushi. I think you might have to reshare.
Don't think we're able to hear the audio, Arushi. Probably.
Sorry?
We're not able to hear the audio too well. Can either reshare, skip the video, and now.
Sure, okay. One second, sorry. Is it better or no? Is it better, Pranav? Sorry.
Nope, unable to hear
So
the
stop
audio.
sharing and reshare. You have to select the video and audio.
Sorry.
You might have to reshare, Arushi, for the video to play.
Is this better? Or I reshare it?
Let me share it, Arushi, from my side.
We'll just help you present it, Arushi, one moment.
Do you think India is gender equal?
Yes.
Why not? Why not? Both are equal, men and women.
Yeah, it's definitely a gender equality country.
No. There's no. One minute. Yeah, 1 minute. 1 minute.
Sorry.
What I do is I sit in women's seat and don't get up to make it seem a equal society.
I'm going to show you some very basic things from the kitchen, and you have to tell me if you know these things or not.
Let me see. I mean, it's called Hindi dal.
Hindi dal?
I don't know.
Tur dal.
These are the dal. Of course, different.
How good are you at breaking an egg and putting it in the pan without spoiling the yolk?
See.
Trying to make it like this.
I pledge to make
India gender equal.
More gender equal in our country. Yes.
Yeah, so like you can see, we got the gender, the gap filled by kind of leveraging male influencers to kind of go cook a meal. It could be any of their loved one, it could be their grandmom, it could be their wife, it could be their mom, and actually making a recipe for them and using Wonder Chef appliances. So softly integrated the product, and the content was very relatable because most men obviously don't know what's happens in the kitchen in a country like India. And got us great traction and even drove some sales for the brand, for the category. Yeah, we could go to the next slide.
Do you think
So for Tata Click, we've done, we've been working for the last 1 year, done multiple campaigns over the years where we have helped grow their community on Instagram. And this one is an interesting campaign that we did where Tata Click actually wanted to position themselves and stand out as a gifting platform during the festive period. We came up with a gamifying concept of Show Them You Know Them challenge, where we created excitement by collaborating with celebrities pairs that took up the challenge. And so, we had Neena Gupta, Masaba Gupta actually, kind of quizzing each other and taking up a challenge as to what are their likes and how can they kind of, what should they be able to kind of gift each other this season. There's
that girl now, you say, who looks like you. Rihanna? Oh my God!
Hi, I'm Masaba Gupta.
Hello, I'm Neena Gupta.
And we're taking on the Show Them You
You
Know Them challenge by
Tata
Tata
Click.
Click. So I'm going to prove to everyone that I know you all too well and I'm going to win.
Okay. Just don't fly so high, we haven't even begun. So we have prepared questions to ask each other and the judge will be the person who is asking.
Okay, so if you were to press play on my music player right now, what's the first song you'd hear?
There's that girl now, you say, who looks like you, Yogi. One second. Rihanna?
Yeah?
Yeah?
That's true.
See?
You got it right.
I got it right. What instantly puts a smile on my face? Don't smile yourself, tell me.
Vada pav? It's true, I mean there is...
But it's very bad to tell people it's vada pav.
I mean it's a cross between like a vada pav and...
Getting good roll now, baby. Getting a
meaty roll.
Getting a meaty roll. Which movie do you think I can watch many times?
Oh, this is tough because you like old movies, no?
You're going the right way. Yes, I do like the old movies.
Like old Hindi movies.
Yes.
Guide.
That you must have heard me saying many
We
times.
can pause it, I
said
think.
in some interview also.
Yes. So, so we actually use celebrity. This was Neena Gupta and Masaba Gupta, like you can see, and we got the likes of Riya Kapoor and Harshvardhan Kapoor on the top funnel. And then we got 100 micro influencers actually to kind of take up the challenge and give something exciting to their loved ones and get to know them better. Again, I think a lot of content got created through this, and we were able to drive sales in the festive season for Tata Click. So this is a case study for a leading men's D2C brand, Beardo. So they came to us and they wanted to kind of create a buzz about a new product, no wash face wash, right? You don't need to wash your face to use this product. And so this was a new product they were launching, and they wanted to actually work with alpha male influencers who actually resonate with the brand and choose 12 different categories, right? It could be a biker, could be a travel influencer, it could be a chef. And so we kind of identified 12 very different influencers who kind of showcase the product and softly in the Instagram reel that they all create. This is a reel first campaign, and as you all know, today Instagram reels are very popular on Instagram as a channel. So quickly kind of show you one example. This is of a biker who integrated this product. So again, like this was concept obviously very unique to the biker, because when they are obviously going out, they kind of sweat. So how can they use this face wash and look fresh? And similarly, we did a unique concept for all the 13 different categories. And I think they got great traction, and eventually also ended up promoting some of the products and got sales again on their website. Yes, I think so. These are the 3 short case studies that I had from the D2C segment.
Yeah, really exciting to see the work, Arushi. I think it's been really exciting for us to also partner with a lot of the brands and, see how we're able to add value with our creators to them. Just to sort of understand, I think a lot of D2C brands today speak of, influencers and creators from a very brand driven point of view. And, they're not a lot of them leverage them in terms of performance and driving and sort of bottom line sales. How are we trying to change that? And if you could just throw some light on what are the advancements on that front?
So I think, today I think it's more about what is the ROI, right, from the influencer marketing campaigns, right? What do you get out of it? Because today there are so many creators out there, right? And they're more and more only adding on to the ecosystem, and there are more platforms. Obviously, there's your Instagram, there's YouTube, there are also the shorter platforms. So we actually have a product. I think it's an end-to-end. We have a dashboard where brands can actually track the performances of the influencers across the funnel, right? So it could be the bottom funnel, the kind of reach, the impressions, the engagement. And at the end, we have also managed to kind of, now link it through to get conversions. So you're able to actually link your Google Analytics account with our product dashboard and even track conversions, right? So if you work with 50 influencers for a particular campaign, then who is that performing better, right? And who is not performing and not giving the sales. And this is obviously, I feel, better than traditional, marketing as well, because here the influencer is obviously creating that asset for you, which if you would be creating a video on your own or a reel will come at a price point higher. Plus he or she is also be able to, drive sales. So it's any day 45% cheaper. And I think we are obviously pushing more brands in our ecosystem to kind of test this out and use influencers because to kind of drive those conversions.
Absolutely makes sense. We've seen influencers being able to drive a lot of incremental sales. I think while a lot of brands are doing, the traditional sales channels and sort of leveraging them enough, I think influencer is an up and coming sales channel, while it has been for the longest time for a lot of brands. In terms of, I think, penetrating deeper into the tier 2, tier 3 markets as well, Arushi, if you want to throw some light on how influencers help with that, vernacular content and sort of, helping relate to those audiences as well.
Yeah, so I think, vernacular content, obviously in the last 4-5 years, I think we all know in this room that, that's it's surpassed, right? Like there's so many more and more influencers. I think YouTube shared that data that are only in regional languages that they're growing, right? So, and they're big, there are these, obviously there was TikTok earlier, but all these TikTok stars have now moved to all the relatively smaller platforms and also in Instagram Reels, right? So I think it's definitely something that all brands should be leveraging. If your audience is the Bharat audience, right, then vernacular is the way. We've done some work for Snapdeal in that, where in the festive season, their audience is a Bharat audience, right? Because you can buy something for 300 rupees from them to even like a 500 rupees sari, and and it is for someone sitting in tier 2, tier 4 as well. So we used vernacular influencers who are popular in each of these regions, and then we amplified it and kind of drove sales for the brand. So I think, but it's obviously persistent to brand, yes. But I think vernacular is the way if your audience are sitting in those cities. Yes.
Oh, great to hear. I think super excited to see how the creator ecosystem builds as well as we move ahead, with social commerce coming in and live commerce. I think creators are going to play a huge role in D2C. And we really thank you for joining us today, Arushi, and sharing your insights with us on the creator ecosystem. I think before we end, if you'd like to share one key takeaway with us in terms of how influencers, how you see influencers impacting the D2C brands, that will help.
Yeah, I think one key takeaway is I think more and more content needs to be created by all the D2C brands, right? Because this market is getting really crowded. So I think, I was talking to another brand the other day, and I think a lot of more videos, right? A lot more content to kind of, be it for the upper funnel, be it for the middle funnel or the end, to kind of work with those influencers. And obviously, it doesn't mean that you do 10 influencers in a month and it's done. It has to be an ongoing activity, which is always on, where you're leveraging multiple influencers and using data, like using our tool or our product or any other tool, kind of using that to kind of go back and work with more of those creators and drive those acquisitions. It could be for the end funnel, it could be for the bottom funnel, and work with more of those creators. And yeah, I think that's and influencer, I think today is definitely, I think most brands want to leverage it and have separate budgets for it. like earlier, so I think it's it's only going to go crazier.
Absolutely, we're equally excited to see how influencers and the creator economy overall helps D2C brands scale and what. Once again, Arushi, thanks a lot for joining us today. And before we end the session, we have a quick musical evening for which we have Supraja joining us. We move to the musical evening before we wrap up the summit. And before we go into that, I would like to thank Arushi once again and everybody else who joined us and been with us through the day. Thanks once again.
Thanks, Pranab. Thanks. Sir.
Hey, yes. Is my voice clear, Pranav?
Yep.
Okay, great. I think the network is a little patchy, so I will switch off my camera and keep the audio on so that the audio is coming out better. Yes. So I think it was a great session overall. I think it's a great way to end it with a small musical note. I just have one song, a very quick song, very melody song. I'll sing that for you guys and we can end the session with a very good note. तन्नू इतना मैं प्यार करा एक पल विच सवार करा तू जावे जे मैनू चढ़ के मौत दा इंतजार करा कि तेरे लिए दुनिया छोड़ दी है तुझ पे ही सांस आके रुके मैं तुझको कितना चाहता हूँ कि तू कभी सोच ना सके तेरे लिए दुनिया छोड़ दी है तुझ पे ही सांस आके रुके मैं तुझको कितना चाहता हूँ कि तू कभी सोच ना सके कुछ भी नहीं है ये जहां तू है तो है इसमें जिंदगी अब मुझको जाना है कहाँ के तू ही सफर है आखिरी कि तेरे बिना जीना मुमकिन मेरे दे देना कभी मुझको तू फासले मैं तुझको कितना चाहता हूँ कि तू कभी सोच ना सके तेरे लिए दुनिया छोड़ दी है तुझ पे ही सांस आके रुके मैं तुझको कितना चाहता हूँ कि तू कभी सोच ना सके Thank you so much.
Thank you, Supraja, for setting us up for a beautiful evening. And once again, thanks everybody else who's joined us for the summit. This is the end. We've reached the end and we will catch you all at the next summit. Thanks, everyone.